Law, and we are going to begin with our, just 1 second, please. Okay. We're going to begin with our state expedited accusation calendar for today, November 12th at 2 p.m. This is a list of cases in which individuals were recently booked at the Fulton County Jail based on certain arrest warrants. Upon being booked in, the cases were formally accused by the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County. This would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer with regard to these new charges. If you are a defendant so charged, please remember your rights. The first one is the right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything that you choose to say during the course of this Zoom virtual proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you. Also keep in mind that your statements are being recorded. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, the Public Defender's Office should have already interviewed you, qualified you for their services, and informed you as to whether they can represent you from this moment forward. For some of you, you may not be qualified for the Public Defender's Office. So after today, you would have to either retain your own attorney to represent you, or you can choose to represent yourself. Keeping in mind that if you choose to represent yourself, that you are legally responsible for understanding how any decision you make will impact the facts of your case. So we will begin with courtroom 2. Who do we have?
Your Honor, we have position number 2, Mr. Christopher Bass, and he also has his mother in the gallery.
All right, thank you. This is Mr. Christopher Bass, accused of loitering and prowling at 2111 Howell Mill Road in Atlanta, Georgia. Mr. Bass, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is presently Miss St. Flex?
That's correct, Judge.
All right. All right, and Ms. Harrison, any priors, please?
Prior, Judge. He is recommended for you, JR.
All right. And Ms. Anderson, what's the state's recommendation?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. The state recommends a $2,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, Catherine Gentry, Gentry, and a stay away from 2111 Howell Mill Road. Yesterday at 11 a.m., Mr. Bass.
I've read the warrant. I'm
Okay,
actually
great.
more interested in listening to his mother, if she'd like to testify.
Same. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Your Honor, I don't have my key.
Okay. If you could just inquire of what's her name and what's her address.
Okay. What's your name and your address? It's Ms. Bass, and I believe it's 517? 5170 Lincoln Drive, Fairburn, Georgia.
All right, that's a little ways away from Howell Mill Road. Mr. Bass, your bond is going to be set at $2,500. That's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. You are to stay 200 yards away from the entire location known as 2111 Howell Mill Road in Atlanta, Georgia. You are to have no further contact with Catherine Gentry. And once you're out on pretrial, you're to report to pretrial once a month. You are to update the court with your new address or your current address so that you will not miss out on your future court summons. Ms. St. Flex, does the Public Defender's Office represent him from this point onwards?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Bass, I highly recommend that you consult with the Public Defender's Office as to what your next option is. Thank you.
I don't have my key to let you in to talk to the judge. His mother wants to say something. I guess we can.
She has nothing to say to me. She can speak with the Public Defender's Office or with the Victim Advocate's Office. Does she want contact with her son?
She said yes.
Okay, then there's nothing else to be said. We can move on to the next case.
Okay. Next, we're gonna go to position number 3, Ms. Sabrina Buford.
Miss Buford's case number is 22 CR 007743G. She has been accused of battery, domestic violence from November 11th, 2022. Miss Buford, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Miss St. Plex. Any priors, Miss Harrison?
5 cycles, Judge. Last arrest was March of 2009 for possession of cocaine with intent to distribute. No disposition listed on that arrest. Record does indicate a 2007 battery, simple battery, family violence, and that charge was dismissed.
All right, thank you. Miss Anderson, I'm familiar with the warrant. Is it Miss Anderson right now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, sorry. What's the recommendation in terms of contact and the bond?
$5,000 surety bond, no drugs, driving, alcohol, or weapons, and no contact with the victim, Aranilla Lay, Aaronilla, Lay, who is the defendant's daughter.
And do you know if that person is of the age of majority?
I don't, Your Honor. We definitely attempted to contact Ms. Lay multiple times today, but I don't know her age.
All right, thank you. Ms. St. Plex?
Yes, Your Honor. It's my understanding that she's 17 years old, but she's going to be living with her father, and that previously she was sometimes living with her other sister, who is 32 years old. I have spoken with Ms. Buford about no contact, so she has no issue with that. Because that address is Ms. Buford's address and the daughter is not going to be there, we would just ask that it stays as a no further contact. Her name is on the lease.
How do you know that she's not living there?
From my understanding, speaking with Ms. Buford, she said her daughter does not live there. She went to pick her up from the hospital when this alleged incident happened, but she's been living back and forth with her father as well as her sister, who's 32 years old, from my understanding. Mrs. Buford also just informed me that she's not working right now. She's had some diagnoses that's caused her to be unable to work. And so she's not going to be able to afford $5,000 surety bond. As far as the bond, we're asking for a SOB or I don't know if she qualifies for pretrial, but we're requesting an SOB bond. I think the last incident that was spoken about was a charge that was in 2009. But as far as the driving, we would object to any restrictions on her driving. I think that was a recommendation. I think this only has to do with an incident with her daughter. And so if there's anything for driving that's restricted, we would just request that's allowed to go through GDS.
Bond is going to be set at $5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. She will be released on the signature bond. She's to have no further contact with, I'm so sorry, I would make sure I don't mispronounce his name, Aranilla Lay. And she may return to the Sandtown Road location one time only with a police officer. She may return into the property if it's verified by the police officer that Aaron Miller does not live there. If Aaron Miller is still residing in the property, then she has to stay away from that location until Miss Aaron Miller Lay vacates the property. She is to have not consume any alcohol, no drugs, and not possess any weapons or any firearms. While she is out on a signature bond through pretrial, she will, if she needs to live in a different location until Miss Lay vacates the property, then Miss Buford will have to update us with her new address. I'll also require her to do an 8-week anger management program, and she may begin those classes within 60 days of being released from the jail, and she will report to pretrial when she begins those classes, and it would have to be at her expense. So please understand, Ms. Buford, your first visit back to your home once you're released on your pretrial bond is with a police officer, and the police officer will verify whether your daughter is still living there. If your daughter is not living there, you may return to the property. But if your daughter is still living there, You can only go and retrieve your belongings, but you must stay away from that location until she vacates the property. That is, that she goes, lives with her older sister, or goes and lives with her father. Our next court date will be sent to Ms. Buford's address, either at the Sandtown Road location or the new address that she provides. I have Mr. Hines, position 6. I understand there is private counsel in the courtroom. Are we ready to address that?
We can, Your Honor. I can bring them up.
If they're ready.
So you can get to it if you want. Say something.
Sorry, Mr. Jordan? Sorry, Mr. Jordan?
Speak. I was just asking the attorney to say something in the mic, Judge.
Good morning, Judge. Andrew Hughes on behalf of Mr. Hines.
All right, and could you repeat your name again, please?
Andrew Hughes,
Andrew.
Hughes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Terrence Hines is in courtroom 2, case number 22 CR 007748J. This is a vehicular situation that occurred in the second degree on November 11th, 2022. In addition to that charge, Mr. Hines is also accused of failure to yield the right-of-way to a pedestrian, failure to exercise due care with the pedestrian. Those are the 2 charges. Mr. Hughes, are you familiar with the 2 charges brought against him?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and this allegedly occurred on November 11th, 2022. You have the new accusation number, yes?
No, I don't, Your Honor. Could you repeat that for me, please?
Sure. 22 CR 007748J. Mr. Hines has been advised of his right to remain silent, and you are his attorney, Andrew Hughes. Miss Ann Harrison, do you have Mr. Hines' GCIC or
Yes,
motor vehicle
yes,
record?
Judge, no prior history.
Okay. Miss Anderson, have you and Mr. Hughes discussed bond?
No, I haven't spoken to Mr. Hughes yet, though it is a pleasure to see you today, Mr. Hughes.
Pleasure is mine.
All right, I've read the warrant. I understand the circumstances of this case, and this is a misdemeanor charge. Would you and Mr. Hughes like to discuss bond, or do you want me just to go through the normal process?
I think it's okay to go through the normal process, Your Honor. The state recommends a $10,000 surety bond and no driving.
All right. And Mr. Hughes?
Your Honor, good morning and good afternoon, rather. Thank you for your time. I'm here this afternoon and we're asking for a signature bond. Despite that, I'll show you that Mr. Hines appreciates and understands the significance of the allegations that have been made against him. I will submit to the court that he is not a flight risk. He has been a resident of Georgia for more than 26 years with his most current address at 3702 Rosebud Park Drive in Snellville, Georgia. He's been a resident there for more than 15 years. He is currently married and his wife is here to support him this afternoon. They've been married for more than 26 years as well. Mr. Hines also has the full support of his employer as well. He's been employed for nearly 9 years with Advanced Republic Disposal Services. He works there as a commercial driver. I will submit to the court that he poses no threat or danger to the community. As the assistant solicitor mentioned, he does not have any criminal history at all. I've reviewed several years of his driving history and only discovered that he was convicted of a failure to obey a traffic control device back in 2018, but it's not had any violations before or since then. Your Honor, I would further submit that he is not a risk to the community, is not at risk of committing any further felonies. In addition to that, he does belong to a church near the Georgia Stone Mountain area, where he's been an active member for several years. He's also involved in several philanthropic efforts within the city of Atlanta. As a part of those philanthropic efforts, it includes making donations during the holiday seasons to help feed the less fortunate. I will submit to the court that Mr. Hines is a great candidate for a signature bond, again, despite the serious and awful circumstances that have landed him where he is.
Anything else?
I would just also submit that he has not had any prior mental health concerns or any allegations or concerns with substance or alcohol abuse as well.
It is a tragic incident, giving rise to these charges. On the first charge is going to be a $1,500 surety bond. On the remaining charges is going to be an $8,500 signature bond through the pretrial services. His total bond is a $10,000 split bond. I understand that he does have the support of his employer. But at the present time, I need him to not be operating any motor vehicle for the next 60 days.
Wait, hold on.
Ms. Harrison?
Wait 1 second. Yes, Judge.
Okay, can we mute screen, please? Okay, thank you. I just want to be sure. All right, as I was saying, it's a $10,000 split bond. He is not to operate any motor vehicles for the next 60 days. So I'm not sure how his employer can accommodate him in that, but I'm sure they could. And while he's out on 60 days, I need him to take a defensive driving class. And I have a feeling this will be more up to the insurance companies than really the courts.
Understood.
All right, thank
Your
you.
Honor, I'm sorry, Your Honor, would you please restate that split bond?
$1,500 for the count one and $8,500 for count two.
Thank you, Your Honor.
10,000 split bond. I just want to be sure, and I want to check his address. Do we have his current address?
If not, I do have a current
I just need the
address.
street name.
Rosebud Park Drive.
All right. So Mr. Hughes, that's the address we have. We will send him, his next court date is December 1st. No, is it December 1st?
Yes, it's December 1st.
Okay, his next court date is December 1st. That's a state all-purpose calendar. Of course, if he makes bond, then his court date will be amended and he will get notice in the mail as to the next court date. If you decide to file a waiver of arraignment and so forth, you may do so anytime from today. Please go ahead and file your entry of appearance as well.
Well, Your Honor, just for a moment of clarification, that $1,500 on count one, is that a good bond?
That's a good bond, and the remainder is a signature bond through pretrial.
Understood. Thank you, Your Honor. This is
All
the
right.
business that I have with the court this afternoon. May I be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you.
Courtroom 2, next case, please.
Next, Your Honor, we have position number 4, Ms. Covington.
This is State versus Natasha. I'm sorry, it's Natasha. I've got M. Natasha Covington, accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property and theft by taking in case number 22 CR 007745Y. This is incident from October 7th, 2022 at the Red Rice restaurant. Ms. Covington, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. St. Flex. Ms. St. Flex, is this a confirmed representation?
No, Your Honor. Ms. Covington is gonna hire service.
All right, so Ms. Covington, you are represented by the Public Defender's Office only for today's proceeding, but after today, you're going to have to hire your own private attorney.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Harrison, any priors, please?
No prior, Judge.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Anderson.
Good afternoon, Judge. The state is asking for a $2,000 surety bond, no contact with Miss Pershetta Mack, PERSHETTA MACK, who is the owner of the Red Rice Restaurant, and to stay away from the Red Rice Restaurant located at 1401 Moreland Avenue Southeast. We're also asking for no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. a 1-day anger awareness, and restitution in the amount of $343.
All right, thank you. Ms. St. Flex?
Yes, Your Honor, as to restitution, we believe that is a sentencing measure, and so we would object to any restitution. We would ask that any restitution be a part of sentence if that is the result of a guilty plea or guilty at trial. As far as Mrs. Covington's ties with the community, she's lived here her entire life. As you heard, she doesn't have a history. She has a mom who was deceased, but she does have a dad who is in hospice, who she goes and see and helps take care of, as well as 2 younger brothers, and on occasion, her sister who lives here. She did complete some college education at Atlanta Tech. We're asking that Ms. Covington, based on my information, she said that she does still have her job. She was supposed to be there. She was recently promoted. However, she doesn't know anyone who is going to be able to bond her out when I was asking for that information. And for that reason, we are asking that she's given a signature bond and released either SOB or through pretrial.
All right, I just want to clarify. She's still employed at the Red Rice restaurant?
No, she's no longer there, Your Honor.
Okay.
She's at a different job.
Okay. I've read the warrant and it's a little concerning. Does she have any other holds or any other outstanding matters?
No, Your Honor, this is her first charge. She has no record.
Okay. On the criminal trespass and causing damage to property, that's going to be $1,000 surety. On the theft by taking, that's a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial. The total bond is a $3,000 split bond. No further contact with Ms. Krishada Mack to stay away from 1401 Moreland Avenue, which is the Red Rice restaurant. She has to stay 200 yards away from Ms. Mack and the restaurant and have no contact with either one of them. And she'll report, once she makes the $1,000 portion, she'll be released on a $2,000 signature bond on the theft by taking charge. Her next court date is December 1st. If she makes a bond, she will get a new court date. Thank you. Oh, and no alcohol, drugs, and weapons. Next case, please.
Your Honor, next we have position number 11, Mr. Reynolds,
All right.
and he has a sister in the gallery.
All right. This is Nicua Reynolds, 22 CR 007736C.
It's not Quay Reynolds.
Sorry?
Not Quay Reynolds.
Nicua Reynolds. Okay. And Mr. Reynolds is accused of battery causing substantial physical harm and cruelty in the 3rd degree. All right. From November 18th, 2021. Mr. Reynolds, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Bianca Thomas. Ms. Thomas, is this a confirmed representation?
It is, Your Honor.
All right. And let's see, Ms. Harrison, any priors on Mr. Reynolds?
3 cycles. Last arrest was January of 2012. Theft by taking in Atlanta, Georgia. No disposition listed on that arrest. Record does not indicate any convictions, Judge.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Salette.
Yes, Your Honor. I know the warrant only discusses the battery against Daquania Ellison. But the report that we have also mentions that he battered his children's mother as well on that day, that Miss Danielle. We just wanted to add that in for the record as well. The state's recommendation at this time is a $7,500 surety bond, no contact with the victims. Daquania Ellison, that's DAQWANNIA Ellison, ELLISON. There's also a cruelty charge where the victim mentioned in the warrant that minor child was present during the incident. We would also ask for a stay away from that minor child as well. The initials are LB. And a stay away from that incident location, which is 50 Mount Zion, apartment 5 in Atlanta, Georgia. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. I spoke with Mr. Reynolds. He is strongly denying these allegations. He is 28 years of age. He's been a Georgia resident all of his life. He does have family here. He is the father, of 4 children, Your Honor. He completed the 12th grade. Mr. Reynolds was also employed at Chops Lobster Bar. He's been working there for the past 8 years. He works there as a cook, Your Honor. We would be asking for a signature bond. I understand that Mr. Reynolds does have a separate case
Yes.
that might have him tied up. However, Mr. Reynolds did express that due to his situation currently, he's not sure whether or not he's still going to be employed. And given that he does financially provide for his children, he's not going to be able to make a high surety bond. So we are asking for a signature bond, or if the court is not inclined, a bond no more than $2,000.
All right.
I'm sorry, Judge.
Yes,
This
that's
defendant
right.
also appeared in first appearance.
Yes, I noticed that too.
Okay.
What bond did he get in that case?
20,500.
Okay. Officer Norris, did his family, did one of them want to say something, or shall I proceed? No, you look in front. Reynolds, you look in front. You don't turn around.
I'm sorry.
Only one person. All right, good afternoon. May I know with whom I'm speaking?
I'm his big sister, Denitra.
Demetra Ellison?
No, Denitra Dawson.
It's a little muffled, so you have to speak louder.
Oh, Denitra Dawson.
Donaldson, okay.
No, Dawson, Dawson.
Dawson. And how do you know Nicua Reynolds?
Not quite. We have the same dad.
Okay. And do you share the same property at Mount Zion Road?
No, my.
All right. What would you?
They don't even live at that property anymore.
Okay. And what would you like to tell me?
I was just gonna ask what his attorney is for a signature bond, because right now, we don't have any money like that, and I just got back on my job, so I can't even help him if I tried.
All right, and you do understand that he has another open case with more serious charges?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you know Daquania Ellison?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I know her.
I'm sorry?
I know of her.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
On the battery substantial physical harm, I'm sorry, Ms. Thomas, did you have anything else to add?
Nothing, Your Honor. Mr. Reynolds is definitely unopposed to no contact and stay away from Miss Daquania. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Miss Daquania Ellison.
On the battery substantial physical harm, it's going to be a $2,500 surety bond. On the cruelty in the 3rd degree, that's going to be a $1,000 signature bond through the jail. That's a $3,500 split bond. No further contact with Miss, and I do apologize, Daquania Ellison. And to stay away, I believe this is at 514 Park Valley Drive. I'm not sure the location.
Your Honor, the location of the incident.
Oh, was it 50 Mount Zion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and to stay away from 50 Mount Zion in Atlanta, Georgia, that entire complex. No alcohol, drugs, and weapons. And your next court date will be December 1st for the misdemeanor case. I'm not certain what's your court date for your other open matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next, we have Position number 9, Mr. Montgomery.
Anthony Montgomery is accused of criminal trespass from November 11, 2022 in 22 CR 007739G. Mr. Montgomery, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Thomas. Ms. Harrison, how many cycles, please?
27 cycles with
Uh-huh.
one arrest out of Kansas. Last arrest was September of this year for criminal trespass in Atlanta, Georgia. That is an open case, 22 CR 006603G.
Thank you. That's good. Mr. Lett?
Yes, Your Honor. As stated, the defendant is out on a signature bond for criminal trespass from September of this year. He also has a 2019 conviction for criminal trespass and 3 criminal trespass convictions from last year, 2021. The state's recommendation at this time is $1,000 surety bond, stay away from the incident location, which is a MARTA station at 216 Peachtree Street, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would be asking for a signature bond or a bond no more than 500. Mr. Montgomery is residentially challenged. He has been for quite some time. I know our office has worked with Mr. Montgomery on a few occasions and has assisted him with getting into some shelters as well. I believe, like most, Mr. Montgomery frequents MARTA, obviously for warmth or shelter. But Your Honor, given that this is a nonviolent offense, and I don't believe there's any mention as to why Mr. Montgomery was asked to leave the MARTA station. I believe Mr. Montgomery would be a good candidate for a signature bond, but as I mentioned, Mr. Montgomery is residentially challenged. He is unemployed, so essentially any bond would be no bond for him. So if the court is not inclined for a signature bond, I would be asking for a bond no more than $500. Again, Mr. Montgomery is 59 years of age. He has been a long-term Georgia resident. I remember that Mr. Montgomery does have a sister residing in Georgia. I would have to find her contact information, but I have spoken with her on occasion before, Your Honor.
All right. Bond's going to be set at 1,000. It is a surety bond. And we're going to reset this case as well as the other open case, 22 CR 006683G. And both cases are going to be reset to December 1st for plain arraignment on that day. To stay away from the model location at 216 Peachtree Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Montgomery, come on. Come on. You got a good bond. You got a good bond. You got a good bond. Go ahead. Oh, when you get out, I'll talk to you later. Next, we got position number 1, Mr. Bailey.
Mr. Kenneth Bailey II is accusation number 22 CR 0077418. Mr. Bailey, I'm not sure what happened on December 22nd, 2021, but there are 6 traffic-related charges brought against you. They begin with seatbelt violation as an adult, fleeing or attempting to elude an officer, obstruction of a law enforcement officer, failure to signal a lane change, reckless driving, and driving with an improper or erratic lane change. So that was the December 2021 incident. I understand that Mr. Bailey has also been booked in on a felony matter. I'm not sure it involves the same vehicle, but that's neither here nor there.
Your Honor, this is the matter. It started as a felony. It was reduced to these misdemeanor charges. So
so is the theft by conversion now a misdemeanor matter?
No, Judge, he attended first appearance today and received $5,000 on that open felony.
Okay. All right, so let's just get back to the misdemeanor issue. Mr. Bailey, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Saintflex. And Ms. Saintflex, is this a confirmed representation?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, Your Honor, can you advise him of his rights? He wasn't in the courtroom at the time.
I certainly will. Thank you. Mr. Bailey, just to reiterate, you have been accused of the 6 charges that I just listed. You have a right to remain silent about the facts of that case. Anything you say, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. Ms. Saintflex from the Public Defender's Office will be your counsel. Ms. Harrison, any priors?
Judge, 2 cycles. First arrest was April of 2018 for possession of marijuana less than an ounce in College Park. That arrest was amended to disorderly conduct, misdemeanor conviction. Nothing further.
All right, thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Your Honor, the state is asking for a $10,000 split bond for Mr. Bailey. Breaking that down, it'd be $1,000 surety for the seatbelt violation, a $3,000 surety for the fleeing, another $3,000 for obstruction, $1,000 on each remaining charge, for a total of a $10,000 split bond. Other conditions include no driving, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons. That's it from the state, Your Honor.
All right. And Ms. Saintflex?
Yes, Judge, it's my understanding that Mr. Bailey has lived here in Atlanta all of his life. So he is not a flight risk. He was working as a lawn servicer worker for the last 2 years before he was arrested. He has graduated high school. There is a misdemeanor college parpo from my understanding. So in addition to the $5,000 bond that he already has, he's not going to be able to get out. He's going to be transferred over. And partly for that reason, we're asking the court that his total bond for all of his charges are no more than $2,000 surety bond, seeing as he's going to have to bond out on the felony charge as well.
All right, thank you. Yes, I've already read the warrants and also the theft by conversion warrant. And my biggest concern is his failure to comply. On the seatbelt violation, that's going to be a 500 signature bond through the jail. The remaining bonds are going to be a surety bond. On the fleeing and attempting to elude, it's going to be 1,000. Obstruction of an officer, 500. Failure to signal lane change, 500. Reckless driving, 1,000. And driving improper erratic lane change, 500. That should be a total of a $4,000 split bond. 3,500 is a surety bond and 500 is a signature bond through the jail. Next court date is December 1st. No driving unless he has a valid driver's license, proper registration, adequate insurance, and that he has permission of the owner of the vehicle to or possess that vehicle, that car at the time that is being driven. Thank you.
Next, we have position number 5, Mr. Reese Davis.
Ms. Anderson, do we have a, yeah, I guess we have a cross defendant. I see Ms. McLeod on this case.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So Mr. Reese Davis is 22 CR 007746B. Mr. Davis was accused of simple assault, domestic violence from November 10th, 2022. Mr. Davis, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Maureen McLeod. Any priors, Ms. Harrison?
No prior, Judge.
All right. And Ms. Anderson?
Your Honor, the state is seeking a $3,000 surety bond in this case, a stay away from 2070 Cheshire Bridge Road Northeast. The specific apartment is 408, though we are asking for a stay away from the entire complex. No contact with the victim, Tiffany Thornton, common spelling, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and a 1-day anger awareness class. And just for the record, Your Honor, the state has reached out to the DA's office to see if they want to receive this case so that both of the cases can travel together.
Okay.
No response yet, though.
All right. Ms. McLeod, does your client own or lease or that particular location at 408? I can't remember.
It's leased, Your Honor.
To both of them?
Yes, Your Honor, that's my understanding. But he does tell me that he does not have to stay there. He can stay with his mom.
That makes it easier. Bond is going to be set at $3,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Reese, you can be released on a signature bond through pretrial. You'll have to report to pretrial once a month. You are to have no further contact with Tiffany Thornton, and you are not to return to the 408 location. If you have if he has personal belongings there, he may return one time only with a police officer to retrieve his personal belongings, but that visit cannot exceed 1 hour. You're to stay away from Ms. Thornton, not communicate with her in person, through a third party, through a phone, computer, or even on social media. Thank you. Oh, and your next court date, oh, well, this is important. Within 30 days of being released, you must update us with your new address so that we can send you notice of your next court date. Because if you don't show up, we will have to issue a warrant for your arrest.
Mr. Reese Davis?
Do you have a question about your address?
Or about going back to the house?
No, I was gonna say that the address on my driver's license, 8188 Mackenzie Place, that is, that's the address for me. So, I don't have to worry about that.
That's a good address. Okay.
That's for me. And I was just gonna ask if you could just repeat the conditions again.
No further contact with Tiffany Thornton. Do not contact her in person, through a third party, through a computer, cell phone, or even on social media.
Understood.
You're not to contact her in well, definitely not in person. You are to stay 200 yards away from the 408 address, and you can go there one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings. That visit cannot exceed 1 hour.
Understood.
And we do have a Mackenzie Place address, so we will send your notice to that location. Thank you.
Thank you.
What was that bond amount, Your Honor?
3,500 signature bond through pretrial.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. McLeod, you have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. You too, Judge.
Next, we have position number 7, Juwan Johnson.
Mr. Juwan Johnson is accused of battery domestic violence in case 22 CR 007737B from November 11th, 2022. Mr. Johnson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Thomas. Ms. Thomas, this is a confirmed representation?
No, Your Honor. Unfortunately, Mr. Johnson is overqualified currently.
All right. Mr. Johnson, the Public Defender's Office can represent you for the bond hearing today. But after today, you will have to retain your own counsel, or you would have to represent yourself, keeping in mind that you are responsible for all legal decisions. Understood?
Understood.
All right. Mr. Johnson's been accused of battery domestic violence against one Jasmine Johnson. Ms. Harrison, any priors?
Second arrest, Judge. First arrest was June of 2019 for possession of marijuana less than an ounce in Clayton County. He completed PTI and that charge was dismissed.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Saleh?
Yes, Your Honor. Due to the victim being his sister, they do live in the same household. The state is requesting a $5,000 surety bond. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. No contact with Jasmine Johnson. Stay away from the 4881 Brookwood Place. That was the incident location. Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Ms. Thomas?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any argument for bond?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were about to ask me a question. Sorry, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor, I would be asking for a signature bond on Mr. Johnson's behalf. He is denying these allegations as being the primary aggressor. We are also asking that he be allowed to return back to his home. That is his mother's home. I also spoke with Ms. Chantel Johnson, which is his mother, and she did express to me that not only their grandmother that was also at the residence, and another sibling tried to explain to law enforcement that this was a sibling fight, and that what the complaining witness told the authorities was not accurate, that they want Mr. Johnson to come home. Obviously, the law enforcement officer told them that since the complaining witness called the authorities, that someone had to be taken into custody. I believe she left the location. It's my understanding that she left the location at the time. So Mr. Johnson was the only one that was arrested. Again, Mr. Johnson is 25 years of age. He has been a Georgia resident all of his life. He completed high school and he has attended some college. He is gainfully employed. He works at FedEx. He's been working there for the past 3 months. He currently doesn't have any children, and Your Honor, as we heard, he doesn't have any significant criminal history, specifically no violent history. So I am asking for a signature bond. I believe he was also recommended, asking for no further violent contact with his sister, and that he be allowed to return back to his mother's residence in which he stays. Because further, Mr. Johnson did express that he does not have anywhere else he would be able to go.
Well, he's going to have to find some place to go. Bond is set at $3,500. That's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with Jasmine Johnson, and he will not return to 4881 Brookwood Place in South Fulton. He may return to that location one time only with a police officer to either retrieve his belongings, a visit that cannot exceed 1 hour, or to verify that Jasmine Johnson has vacated the premises and does not live there. If she does not live there, he may return to that location. But if she's still living there, he cannot share the same home with her. Within 30 days of being released on pretrial bond, he must report every month. I'm sorry, he must report every month, but within 30 days of being released, he must update us with his new address so we can send him his new court date. He will report to pretrial once a month, and while he is out on a pretrial bond, he will complete an 8-week anger management program at his expense. Those classes must begin within 60 days of being released. Thank you.
Thank
no
you.
alcohol, no drugs, and no weapons and no firearms.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Johnson, do you have a question about your bond?
No, I have a question about the resident. So if I can't be able to go to my mother's house back, or
if you can't do what?
If I'm not able to go back to my mother's house, what else can I? What's up?
You are 25 years old and fully employed. I guess you'll have to find someplace else.
And Mr. Johnson, I spoke with your mom. I'm going to update her as well. She told me to give her a call back, so she'll be able to assist you.
Okay. All right. Up next, Your Honor, we have position number 8, Mr. Brock Mills.
Brock Michael Mills is case 22 CR 00774H, accused of battery, domestic violence from November 11, 2022. This is with regards to was it a Candace Paulson? Or Candace Paul?
Candace Paul, Your Honor.
Okay, just want to be sure I got my notes right. Okay. Mr. Mills, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Thomas. Ms. Thomas, will he have to retain his own attorney, or will the PDs represent him?
Yes, Your Honor, he'll have to retain his own attorney. He is overqualified.
All right. Ms. Harrison, any priors?
9 cycles with history in Nevada and California. Last arrest, October of 2011, battery in Las Vegas, Nevada. No disposition listed on that arrest. Record indicates 3 misdemeanor conviction outside the 10-year period in California. Nothing further.
All right. Ms. Saleh?
Yes, Your Honor. I did not see any violent arrest in his history. I did see a 1999 disorderly conduct involving alcohol conviction, 1997 DUI conviction, and 2004 DUI conviction. And the victim did allege that there was alcohol involved in this incident as well. The state's recommendation at this time is going to be a $5,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond, no contact with the victim, Candace Paul, and that's Candace spelled with a K.
Okay. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. We will be requesting a signature bond or a bond no more than $1,000. Mr. Mills is 44 years of age. He and his family moved to Georgia a year ago. They bought a home here. He's originally from California. Mr. Mills did express that he's also the primary breadwinner of his household. Mr. Mills is currently employed at the Altitude Aviation Group. He's been a manager of sales there since 2017. He's also the proud father of 3 children. He has 5-year-old twins and a 2-year-old in which he and Ms. Paul do homeschool the children together. When I spoke to Mr. Mills, and don't believe that I heard any prior violent history. When I spoke to Mr. Mills, he also expressed the same. Would be asking for the signature bonds or the bond no more than $1,000. Mr. Mills did express that he would like to be able to return back to the home. However, he is not financially incapable of finding somewhere else to stay until this case is resolved. We're also asking for no further violent contact with Ms. Paul since they do share those 3 children.
Any word from Ms. Paul?
I did not have her contact information, Your Honor.
Ms. Salette, it's difficult at this time. Yesterday.
Ms. Calloway, do you recall if you were able to make contact with Ms. Paul?
No, I didn't have a good contact number for her. And I believe I called her, but it was no return call back from her.
Thank you, Ms. Calloway. So yes, Your Honor, we have not had contact with the victim. So we would reiterate our request for no contact, and we would be unopposed to third-party contact for the children that they share.
Bond is going to be set at $3,500. It is a signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with Candace Paul until further order of the court. And to Mr. Mills, you are not to return to 744 Towns Creek Drive in Canton, Georgia. You would have to find alternative housing until further order of the court. You are to update the court with your new address within 30 days of being released. You're not to contact Ms. Paul in person through cell phone, computer, or any kind of, or through a third party or any kind of computer device. You may contact a third party in order to arrange third party transfer of the children if both of you and Ms. Paul decide to share visitation while this case is still open and pending. But until another order is issued, you cannot return to that location or have any contact with Ms. Paul. You may return one time only to the Town Creek location in order to retrieve your personal belongings. You may do so in the company of a police officer. So Canton, Georgia, that's what, Cherokee County?
Correct.
Right, you will have to go to a precinct out in Cherokee County and let them know that you have no further contact and that they need to accompany you to the home to retrieve your belongings. Don't forget to report to Fulton County pretrial once a month. And while you are out on a signature bond, you will complete an 8-week anger management program at your expense. That classes must begin within 60 days of being released. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have position number 10, Mr. Jason Pierce.
Want to say something?
This is, I'm trying to make sure I don't mispronounce. Is it Jason Taylor Pierce?
You have it right.
Thank you. 22 CR 0077388. Mr. Pierce is accused of criminal trespass from November 10th, 2022. Mr. Pierce, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Thomas. Ms. Thomas, will the Public Defender's Office continue to represent him?
Yes, Your Honor, he qualifies.
All right, thank you. Ms. Harrison, any priors, please?
6 cycles, last arrest, March of 2015 for criminal trespass in Sandy Springs, Georgia. That arrest was amended to non-fingerprintable charge. A 2010 misdemeanor conviction for carrying concealed weapon in DeKalb County. Nothing further, Judge.
And Ms. Salet?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's requested this time, due to him having a previous criminal trespass conviction, is $1,000 surety bond, stay away from the incident location, and that's at 11715 Medlock Bridge Road in Johns Creek, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Judge, the only criminal trespass I'm showing is in 2007 for DeKalb, and it was a no-low. I'm sorry, it's a no pros.
Oh, okay. I thought you mentioned a 2015.
No, 2000. That was amended to a non-fingerprintable charge.
Okay, yeah, I got that. All right. And would that amend the state's position?
No, Your Honor. Let me look at our copy of the GCIC really quickly. Okay, I see, Your Honor. There was a criminal trespass that was reduced to disorderly conduct. That was a guilty conviction. So it started out as criminal trespass, but it was a disorderly conduct. My apologies. But in this case in particular, the defendant was criminally trespassed on November 2nd and was right back at the same location about a week later. And also admitted to officers that he knew that he wasn't supposed to be there. Nothing further from the state.
All right. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. We're requesting a signature bond. Mr. Pierce is 32 years of age. He's a Georgia resident. He did complete his GED. He doesn't have a significant criminal history. Your Honor, we're asking the court to consider that. I did speak to Mr. Pierce. He did express that he does understand and is not opposed by staying away from the Panera Bread location. He stated that this was a complete misunderstanding and that he did have permission to charge his phone from an employee at the establishment, but again, that he has no problem understanding that he is not to return back to that location. Mr. Pierce also expressed that he is currently unemployed. However, he was able to secure an interview and orientation at McDonald's, which is supposed to start on Monday. So he does wish to be able to attend orientation so that he can gain I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Which McDonald's?
Oh, Mr. Pierce, do you have the McDonald's location?
I know exactly where this Panera Bread is, so I need to know which McDonald's.
I'm telling you right now. It's right there on it's not far from the Panera. It's down the street from it.
What is it next to?
It's next to a synonymous bank.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Thomas?
I don't have to work there.
Nothing further.
I don't work there.
You keep talking, Mr. Pierce. You're walking into a cash bond.
Mr. Pierce, please remain silent. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. His bond is going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. And if he gets arrested again for anything else, whether it's trespass, disorderly conduct, jaywalking, I don't care, spitting on the sidewalk. If he gets arrested for anything else and he's back in the Fulton County Jail, this signature bond will convert to a good bond or a cash bond only. Mr. Pierce is to stay 200 yards away from the Panera location at 11715 Medlock Bridge Road. And if he is anywhere near that Panera, on the sidewalk, in the parking lot, anywhere near that location, the authorities are able to arrest him and his signature bond will be revoked. So, Mr. Pierce, you are on notice right now that you are not to return to that Panera. And if that means taking the long way around to get to McDonald's, that's what you'll have to do. You cannot be on the parking lot, the sidewalks, or anywhere inside. I don't care who gives you permission to come in there, you are not allowed into that restaurant. Do you understand?
Yes, say so.
Yes.
Good. His next court date is going to be sent to him at his address, and I have a Duluth address,
Yes, Your Honor, 16.
Centerview Drive.
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
Okay. His next court date is going to be sent there. He will have to report to pretrial services once a month. Like I said, if he fails to report, if he gets arrested again, he'll have to come back to jail with $3,000 in his pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's all we have here, Your Honor. I believe we finished with the calendar.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sure Miss Salette was looking for a longer time with you. All right. Thank you so much. You all enjoy the rest of the weekend. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, folks, just to go over the calendar. Miss Holly, let me know if I've made any mistakes. I probably would have, so.
But you know what? I'm gonna need you to go over the bond amounts in position number 1.
Okay.
Okay.
For Bailey, I have a $4,000 split bond. The seatbelt violations of 500 signature bond through the jail. Fleeing and attempting to elude is $1,000 surety. Obstruction of an officer is 500 surety.
Okay.
Failure to signal lane change is 500 surety. Reckless driving is 1,000 surety. And erratic lane change is 500 surety.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Position 2 is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. Position 3 is a 5,000 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. Position 4 is a $2,000 surety bond.
I have it as a $3,000.
It's a $3,000 split bond, $1,000 surety on the criminal trespass, and 2,000 signature bond through pretrial on theft by taking. Reset December 1st. Position 4 is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 6.
Position 5.
Position 5 is 3,500 signature bond through pretrial.
Yes.
Position 6, count 1 is 1,500 surety. Count 2 is 8,500 signature bond through pretrial. So that'll be a 10,000 split. Reset December 1st.
Yes.
Position 7 is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 8 is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial.
Yes.
9 is a $1,000 surety, reset December 1st, along with the companion case.
Yes.
Position 10 is a 3,000 signature bond through pretrial. And position 11 is a 3,500 split bond. It's 2,500 surety on the battery and 1,000 signature bond through the jail on the cruelty.
That's what I have.
Okay. All right. If anyone has any questions, now would be the time. Otherwise, enjoy your weekend. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.